Hello and welcome to Knowledge by Nature. In today's video, I want to talk a little bit about level 2 of traditional spelling. If that is something that you're interested in, I would love if you stick around. All right, welcome back. If this is your first time here, I'm a homeschool mom to a third grader. We love all things books, homeschool, and sharing our journey with you. And if that is something that you're interested in, I would love if you consider hitting that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up if you find this video helpful. So this is Traditional Spelling Level 2 from Memoria Press. We have tried quite a few different spellings. We initially started out with All About Spelling because we love All About Reading so much, it just made sense that that would be the perfect fit for us also. It wasn't at the time, and so then we went to more of a worksheet type spelling with Evan Moore, and then I came upon the Traditional Spelling 1. This worked really, really well, and so we've moved over to Traditional Spelling 2. Now, as homeschoolers, a lot of times we are trying to save money where we can, and one of the ways that we can do that is by buying used curriculum. And that is what I have done here. I purchased the used set. Now, I have the original set of Traditional 1 that I did buy new, and so you can see I have a teacher's manual, the student workbook, supplemental workbook key, and the practice sheets. So I had the entire set of everything except like the flashcards. Well, this time, after knowing kind of what I might could get away with, and usually we're using the student book, so you might sell your teacher's manual and these little extra things, like this is what I've done and that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to sell all of my extras, but it won't have the student included. No. This is a phonetic approach, which is really, really nice because you get the phonics approach to it so that they can see how the blends work together to make the different sounds, but it's also worksheet based. And so you can kind of have this phonetic approach almost hands off as far as writing if you chose to use it that way, or you have the phonetic approach with some of these worksheets. Now, I don't have the student workbook, so how is this going to work for me? It's going to work really, really well, actually, and it's working really, really good. So what I am doing is, let me show you what should be happening, okay? Let's go ahead and do a quick flip through as we go. We have 34 lessons. This is everything that is going to be included in those lessons. And one of the things that happens with this one is we start seeing cursive along the side, which is a little bit different. Let me get that closer. So if you have the student book, this is the page they're going to have. So the teacher's manual has a little version of the student book. And here you can see that we're seeing both print and cursive here. So that is something that you're going to have different from level 1 to level 2. Besides that, everything is looking pretty similar. It's set up in the same 4 to 5 day process. Day 1, you're going to teach the new methods. You're going to go over the definitions. We're going to have some word study questions. We're going to do a little activity. For instance, this activity was we had a missing sound. And then they would come and do this page. Day 2 is you're going to complete day 2 activity. This gray section right here is what that is. And then you're going to complete student page number 2. Day 3 would include day 3 activity, the little gray box. You're going to read this section right here, which is her absolute favorite page to do. She loved day 3. There's always an informative paragraph here, and we have always enjoyed whatever is in there. And then at the end, you fill in the spelling word that should go into that sentence. That is her absolute favorite page of this whole thing. So that was something I wanted to take into account when losing the student workbook meant that I lost this page for her, which is her favorite page. But we'll get to that in a minute. So then step 3 was you're going to complete this. So you read this together. As you see your spelling words, which are bolded, you do a thumbs up saying that you recognize it. Then she finishes that. Day 4 can be where you dictate all these sounds and they write it out. I always treated day 4 as test day. Day 5 is you give a test, and it's pretty much this bottom half right here is your test. So for me, it worked really well just to make this a 4-day. But you don't have to do that. You can definitely do 5-day. And I'm sure if you get creative, you can make it even less than that. 4-day worked really well for her in that she learned how to spell what she was supposed to spell. And it was a good amount of time for her. If I was to flip through this, you would see it's the same thing throughout the entire book. We have the manuscript and the cursive over here on the side. Little bit, a slight change in the activities sometimes, but you always had this day 3. It appears is the same thing here. My plan that I have implemented for this has been that on day 1, let's just open back up to that. Day 1, we're going to do the teaching and we're going to talk about what phonics are going to be covered in this lesson. Then we went over all the definitions, and all I do with this is I point to the word on a big whiteboard, which happens to be this week. So I have this big folder, this very, very large folder that I just put on the desk. And so I would point to the word and I would say the definition. I might spell it, I might not. It all just depends on what I felt like doing that day. So we're going to go through all of these definitions. I'm going to go through all of these word study questions over here, which is essentially what they do in this paragraph over here. Most of the time, your word study is you're breaking it out into the different sounds, and then they write out those things. What I did is I just had her look at the big giant folder page and tell me what 4 words have the short A sound, and she would answer all of that. So this was all verbal. Then we came to the day 1 activity where we played the missing sounds. After we were all done with that, I don't have this sheet, but I do have these 2 books. So I come in here to the practice sheets, which is really just blank lined paper with the spelling words along the side. And what I had her do is I had her write the spelling list over here on the side. We already did the word study question. I had her work it all out. And so for her day 1 writing section, I just had her do this. Day 2, we came over here and we did day 2 activity where I did a bunch of math style king minus k plus s equals, and then I had her write the word. So she was writing S-I-N-G, sing, on the whiteboard. And that was just a really easy way for us to do it because you can easily erase it. And then we did more than 4. I came up with some to do quite a bit of these because that's really our only activity. Day 2 would have been this in the student workbook. But the supplemental workbook has 2 pages for each lesson. So I had her do this page. So instead of doing all of this, which this is where you would color code and all of those sort of things, we could still color code. She didn't enjoy that aspect of it, so we just took it away because she was still spelling properly. If she was having a struggle spelling, we would have left the color coding in here. And when I talk about color coding, it's very reminiscent of, let's say, what is it, Spelling UC, I think, where you color code. Also, all about reading and have the red vowels and the blue consonants. So that's what we're getting here. They would mark the vowels with a breve or whatever needed to be done, but we really didn't do that very much. So day 2, after we do our activities, this is what she did that day. You can see that she circled the word that had the final consonants, and then she had to sort them out over here. Next, we come over to day 3, where I made up quite a few different riddles on a piece of paper. They gave me 2 examples, and then I made some more, and she wrote the spelling word there. Now, this is where I'm going to be doing something a little bit different for day 3 because, like I said, this is her favorite thing. For the first week, I just had her to complete the second page here for lesson 1. Throughout this whole supplemental workbook, you have 2 lesson sheets for your lesson. So there's 2 that work really easily with this program plan that I think I've kind of Mod Podge together here. So day 3, she does this worksheet, but she likes this. So what I am planning to do is I'm just going to type this bottom half up. I'm not going to type all of this. We're just going to read it from my book because we did do that. We read it, we thumbs up our spelling words, and then I'm just going to type these things up so that she can do this page because this is her favorite page. Now, if you don't have a child that cares about a certain page, then this would be day 3 for me. I wouldn't have to do anything extra. I could just go with it. But if it makes things better and more enjoyable for her, I can take the time to do this for 1 day out of the week. Now, if she liked every single page, I'd just take the cost and I would just buy the student workbook. But for the rest of this, it really just can be interchanged really, really easy. So day 4, I can either, in the future, assign this as day 4 and make a test on day 5, or I can just test on day 4 like I was doing before. There's also, if you don't want to have another day, there's an additional, like you could have a game day. There's a lot of game ideas back here in the back of your teacher's book. If I can find them, yes. Back here, there's different spelling review games, different group games. Here's a spelling test. So again, if you don't have either one of these and you just scored an awesome deal on just the teacher's manual, you could do games and then you would have your copy of your spelling test back here. You don't even need that. But everything is kind of in this teacher's book that you can cover. So that's how we are using this. It's not the whole set like it should be, but it's going to work really, really well, I think. And if it gets to a point where day 3 isn't like her big jam anymore, then I'm just going to omit me taking the extra time to do that, and she will do one of the 2 pages here. So I think it's going to be great. We really, really like this. I've noticed a pretty good improvement with her spelling since moving over to traditional spelling. If you haven't seen the first one, I do have a video on that, so I'll put that right here in case you want to see maybe what all is covered in this one. Otherwise, we are very pleased to be moving into spelling level 2, and then there's also a spelling level 3, which of course we haven't gotten to yet. But I did think it was interesting to see that we were getting the cursive, and I did notice in the practice sheets, once we get back here towards, yes, I was about to say, I thought lesson 14, yes. Lesson 14, you can see it's all in cursive. So we have really bumped up the work that we're doing towards cursive so that by the time we get to week 14, we're pretty familiar with all of our lowercase letters. I think it's a great set. I'm really excited that I was able to save some money and still use the program that we wanted to use. So if you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!